Hey folks, welcome back to the Lone Pine Tarot. For today's pick a card reading, we have some really quick changes to talk through. Well, number one, obviously my desk is a little bit different than it has been in past videos. And number two, I'm also trying out a new audio setup. So just quick before we get to picking our piles today. If there's anything about the desk or anything about the audio setup that you have any feedback on, feel free to drop down a message in the comment section below. I always like to get your feedback because what you think about my readings is very important to me. So for our reading today, the topic is, as you can see by the title, a message for personal growth. This was requested on my community tab post by both, I believe it was at Leah Len and at CallieLily2380. They both had requested personal growth-oriented readings, and so I thought, well, let's just do a general message for personal growth for today. So big thanks to those viewers for suggesting. Anyone else that wants to suggest topics for the readings in the next few weeks to a month or so, feel free to pop over to my community post and leave a comment there. So for picking our piles, we're picking with different tarot decks today, the world from each. For pile number ones, we have Tarot for the Great Outdoors. For pile number twos, we have the Forest of Enchantment Tarot. And for pile number threes, we have the Wild Reflections Tarot. If you're interested in seeing the backs, this is what the back of each card looks like. And then for pile number twos, oopsie. And then for pile number threes, almost dropped that card. So if you have not decided yet which pile you would like read for you today for your personal growth message, as always, you can pause on this part of the video. I suggest to people typically to go with your first gut instinct, whatever drew you in first. And then whenever you're ready, drop down to the description box below and or the top pinned comment. Click on the timestamp for your reading, and I will see you in our discussion about a message for personal growth, okay? Bye. Hello, my beautiful pile number ones. Welcome to your pick a card reading today on the topic of a message for personal growth. As you recall, the deck used to pick your pile today was Tarot for the Great Outdoors. This particular deck is themed around different national parks in America, and the park on your card today is Glacier National. Very gorgeous. So I'm going to set that right back into the tarot deck, as I always do when we pick with tarot deck cards. And I've already drawn your oracle cards, and right now I'm going to draw the tarot cards for you today on screen. So, Spirit, for my lovely pile number ones, could you give me 5 different tarot cards explaining more about areas for personal growth or how pile number 1 is doing on their personal growth? Thank you. There we go. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I feel that one there. Pile number 1's number 5. Okay, and let's unveil your cards together. So first, let's look at your oracle cards that I already drew. From the Healing Spirits Oracle, we have very green. Spirit healers and helpers are with you. A lot of healing energy in general with all the green in the card. Heart chakra energy. Let's see, let's set that one up here next to, I believe that is a hawk feather. But if anyone knows better, feel free to correct me. I looked it up. I'm pretty sure it's a hawk feather, but gorgeous. From the Sacred Destiny, we have Purification with the Sunflower. Beautiful. I'm going to set that a little bit more together, more even. From the Wild Harmonics Oracle, you received, okay, it looks like Yin and Yang, Shadow of Error, Negation Trance. Put her over there. And last but not least, for the Oracle cards at least, we have the Lantern Oracle. Today you received, number 32, Eternal Gatekeeper. Acknowledge, assert, and protect what is right for you. A lot about protection and healing, purifying things. Okay, and then as for your tarot cards, let's unveil those together. We have the Three of Cups, or vessels, social groups, the influence of other people. We have the Two of Swords, making choices. The Three of Swords reversed, overcoming pain. The High Priestess, with intuition, sometimes can mean mystery, listening to ourselves deep down. And last but not least, we have the Magician reversed, feeling like we don't have the resources that we need to accomplish what we're looking to accomplish or manifest. Okay, so let's look over your cards here, pile number ones. I'm going to just adjust them a little bit to make some more room. In fact, and I always apologize to my pile number ones because you're kind of my guinea pigs. You're always the pile that helps me figure out how I'm going to set the cards out. So we're actually going to just do this here. So looking at your cards today, pile number ones, in terms of personal growth, at least one area I'm seeing here is your relations with other people. You have the Three of Cups as the first card, which is the card of social groups. You also have the card Eternal Gatekeeper, acknowledging, asserting, and protecting what is right for you. I feel like that tells me there's been a lot of pain in the past, especially with the Three of Swords reversed as like the central card here. Pain in the past regarding other people. As we all do in our lives, people hurt other people, and unfortunately all of us have had to live through that experience. So very common to everybody, right? Having been hurt in the past. But it feels like there's a part of you that's still clinging on to the pain from others in the past, especially emphasized here with the Two of Blades or the Two of Swords, that being the card of making a choice, right? It's like, you know it's good for you to move on past that pain. You know that you should in terms of your own health, your own mental health, emotional health, what have you, but there's a part of you still holding on to it for some reason. And it's like, what's the best way to put it? I feel, especially because of the influence of your Shadow of Air here with Negation Trance, that's a card about being really stubborn in our perspective, really holding on to, it's like the dark side of the air element, hence why it's called Shadow of Air. So the dark side of the air element in cartomancy and tarot, oracle, what have you, is a lot about the negative effect our mind can have on things, the negative effect that logic can have on things. So it's almost like a feeling of punishing oneself, pile number ones, is how I would put it. Like, you know it's good for you to move on from the pain of the past from other people, and you know that that's like the best choice to make going forward, but you're still stuck because it's like almost like you're like, oh, I need to punish myself more. Not in a very conscious way, of course, pile number ones. It's more so in an unconscious way. Like, it's like you feel like you haven't beaten yourself up enough about it because, you know, at least in my own life and in the lives of people I've known, a lot of times that happens because, well, the main emotion driving it tends to be fear. I feel like we cling on to those painful memories, not just because of, well, our brain, at least from a biological standpoint, right, trains us to things that caused us pain in the past. The brain trains us to really, really fear that happening again so that we can protect ourselves. And I think that's where your Eternal Gatekeeper really comes in here, because she is guarding a gate. She's guarding a boundary. It's very much an energy of, I have something to protect, and I'm going to be very solid and stern with where I'm protecting this. It's like protecting that little sensitive part of yourself deep inside that's still hurting over these things from the past, pile number ones. And that's good to protect yourself. It's good to have boundaries. It's good to be a gatekeeper and be a guardian of yourself and your own light. But the issue is sometimes we get so focused on guarding that we don't realize that that's maybe not something that we have to guard that strictly anymore. I know that sounds kind of vague, but I'm trying to think of a really good, like, tangible example. So, here's a good example. So pile number 1's pretend for a second, or maybe this does apply to you, but just pretend for a second that maybe, let's go with romance. Okay, so let's say in the past you have had a lot of partners who, what's a good example? You've had a lot of partners that were controlling. Let's just use that. And so a part of where you're at right now, I feel like, is you're afraid to take new adventures in romance, especially if you're single. But even if you're in a partnership, maybe there's still a lot of that fear holding you back in this relationship that you're currently in, if that applies to you, where it's like you're unable to get to the next step because you're so afraid, because of the pain and the fear that those controlling partners in the past have impressed upon you, that it's almost like you're hyper agitative, or like hyper. The imagery I'm getting is almost like a guard dog that's very trained to look for one specific thing, but not every sound outside the house is an intruder, even though that particular guard dog might think, oh, I need to bark at everything, I need to be really hyper vigilant, right? And so what this personal growth is, pile number 1's, is learning to grow past that area of, I almost would say, hyper defensiveness and hyper vigilance. You almost kind of, I feel like you almost look for signs of bad things where there are none. And yes, it's because of that hyper vigilance, but it's also because I think it's almost like you've been kind of trained to punish yourself, like I said before, like. So one piece of personal growth that Spirit is talking to you about today is to let go of rigid, unmoving perspectives. Look towards a more optimistic tint, pile number 1's, as scary as that is, because a lot of times when we are pessimistic and hypervigilant like that, it's because we think we're doing it to defend ourselves. And it is good to have a healthy dose of pessimism sometimes, but if we cloak everything in a shadow and everything in a cloud, sometimes it's hard to see the light, okay? And I think that's where purification comes from here too, because when I see that card with the sunflower and the term purification, I think of really, so let's talk about purification from a micro level, right? Purification is taking a lot of things, or a bigger thing, and digesting it down into something more pure, or what it is at its core. And right now, I feel like you, pile number 1's, you take in a lot of things that are really, it's that hypervigilance thing coming back. Like, you'll take in a lot of different static and noise, and feel like that's the whole truth, when really Spirit is saying an area of personal growth for you is being able to learn how to purify meaning and purify intentions down to what they actually are more, so that you don't have to feel so hyper vigilant. Because sometimes when the imagery they're showing me, the intuitive message here is, sometimes you get false positives. Sometimes it's like, it's almost like when what is that called that submarines use? Is that technically radar? Where it's like they can turn up the sensitivity on it, and sometimes you'll get false positives when you have to like fine-tune the sensitivity just a little bit to make sure that you aren't getting a warning or a red flag where there are none. Does that kind of make sense, pile number 1's? So that's kind of a secondary message of like the area of personal growth that I'm seeing here for you. And then let's see, we have the High Priestess and the Magician reversed. So the High Priestess is about, yes, intuition. The Magician reversed is about feeling like we don't have the resources we need. It's almost a message, too, here of, I feel like you don't listen to your intuition enough, pile number 1's. I feel like there's a lot more available to you from listening to your intuition that would give you a lot more tools to get through and manage life a lot easier if you listened to it more. Because that Magician reverse tells me there's something like you feel like you're not prepared enough, or you feel like that the universe doesn't send you enough warnings, or like you feel like you don't have enough tools to do something. It's like having a tool belt, but there's no wrench or hammer or screwdriver in it, right? When really there is that tool there. It's just that you're not listening or looking for it enough, with that intuition being the tool that we're speaking of. So another area of personal growth I'm seeing here is maybe developing a little bit more with intuition, maybe a little bit more with third eye chakra type things, crown chakra, right? Getting downloads. Meditation is something I always recommend to everybody, but in general, when you're looking to develop more intuition, meditation is fantastic. Maybe even try looking into remote viewing type tutorials is one thing I'm hearing. And as you go through this time of personal growth, pile number ones, there is a lot of support around you right now, especially from your Healing Spirits Oracle. It says spirit healers and helpers are with you. There's a lot of green energy in throughout this entire spread. I mean, even the Shadow of Air is kind of a green tint, even though it's technically black and white, being yin and yang. There's a lot of green foliage in the Sunflower card. And in general, green represents the heart chakra. It also represents healing and growth. And then with the emphasis of, spirit healers and helpers are around you or with you, you have a lot of support from your spirit team in this time. This is a really fertile, good time to focus on these things. I don't know if you've had maybe a bit of a more free time to look at these things, or maybe if you're on a spiritual path, you've already kind of overcome or worked on something else, and if you've been looking for maybe something new to explore within spirituality and personal growth, this would be a great thing that, like I was saying, like maybe developing intuition more, or learning more about how to purify all that static noise into actual, well, what's the truth and what's just noise, like we were saying before, the first part of this message. Let's see if there's any other areas of personal growth here. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Let's see. I also feel, I'm hearing a message that maybe one of the reasons you're not linking to your intuition enough as an area of personal growth is because you feel like it led you wrong in the past and you don't believe in yourself enough, because this Three of Swords reversed being next to the High Priestess, it's almost like past pain that has influenced listening to your intuition. Like maybe you thought it was wrong and you're like, well, I don't want to listen to that again because that's going to cause me pain like it did in the past. It's almost like a message of believing in your intuition and yourself more. That's a third thing I'm hearing from your spirit team here. Let's see. Three of Vessels, Two of Blades. Yeah, Three of Vessels, too, is like a group of people, like social groups. Two, there's something to do with the Two of Swords being next to the Three of Cups about making better choices regarding your social groups. I almost feel like there's some sort of influence in your social groups where someone is I keep hearing they're very loud. And that doesn't necessarily mean like outgoing or like talkative, though it could, pile number ones. That might be an indicator from, through me, from your spirit team saying, hey, here's an indicator of who we're talking about, right? But there's someone who's very loud, and I feel like they add to a lot of that restlessness and that static that makes you feel hyper-vigilant. Maybe there's someone who it's hard to read their intentions. It's hard to really know when they're telling the truth or not. It just feels like they have a lot of, I'm being told it's like messy noise. I know that sounds really vague, but someone who is not very forthcoming about exactly what they mean, someone who's not very forthcoming about their direct intentions or like the truth versus lies. And I feel like that's adding some toxicity to your life. So another area of purification that you might want to look into is really honing down your social group to people who don't add to that noise and that anxiety of feeling like you have to put up your boundaries all the time and have to be that, eternal gatekeeper, right? And that would bring a lot of healing as well. Just tuning out people that bring too much noise to your life is another message I'm hearing here. Let's see, eternal gatekeeper. Protecting what is right for you. Acknowledge, assert, and protect. Sorry, I'm a little silent, just making sure I'm getting everything. Let's see. Oh, yes, and that's the other one, pile number ones. Okay. So I'm also hearing a message of personal growth regarding, it's kind of a tie between your Shadow of Air, Negation, Trance, and Eternal Gatekeeper. I feel like not just in the area of the way you perceive what people are saying to you or like seeing red flags where there are none. Oh, what's the best way to put it? I feel like you can be too rigid in your opinions sometimes. because that's where the shadow quality of air comes in again, with it's almost like the dark side of logic. Like, you'll almost be able to argue yourself out of anything, or you'll be able to argue yourself out of considering sometimes other perspectives, right? And so there's almost like a defensiveness there with that eternal gatekeeper, with, you know, negation of trance, kind of that combined message of it's okay to not have to plant your feet so firmly and dance a little bit more when it comes to your views on life, your views on spirituality, your views on just in general, pile number ones, okay? You don't have to be a sentinel standing in stone at one place all the time saying, like, nope, this is the truth, this is the way life is, it has to be this way. They're saying, look into expanding your horizons a little bit more about where you stand on things, or considering different perspectives on where you stand on things, okay? It doesn't have to be such a strict line in the sand when it comes to your perspectives. You can entertain a little bit more in some areas of your life when it comes to your opinions and your views on things. It's kind of what I'm being told there with Shadow of Air with Eternal Gatekeeper, okay? Let's see if there's any other messages here. Quite a few coming through for you, pile number ones. Let's see. And purification. Sorry once again for the silence. There's a message coming through. I just want to make sure I hear it right. So there's something too about your energy being a little bit too scattered. I feel like there's areas of your life where you could... There's just a general overall theme here of your reading about honing a bunch of different things and like taking all that scatteredness and purifying it into more of a focused energy here. Like, I don't know if you've been doing like a bunch of different hobbies, which is great. That's fantastic. But, or maybe you've been too scattered at like your particular job. Like, it's just a lot of energy of being spread too thin, of focusing on too many things at once. I feel like there'd be a lot of benefit to be derived from really honing something more into like a laser focus. So maybe if you have a lot of different hobbies, just for example, pile number ones, keep doing all those hobbies, whatever makes you happy, of course, but there's benefit to be derived from really hyper focusing on one or two. I think for the purposes of mastery of that hobby, or something to be derived as a lesson from that hobby. Same thing with that work too. Like if you're feeling like you're spread too thin, or any areas of your life where you feel like you're spread too thin, this is a really great time, Spirit is saying, for you to try to pressure things more down into manageable, focused energy rather than, you know, kind of just throwing darts at a board and like, you know, this thing is here and this thing's there and it's all scattered and it's kind of confusing. And I feel like that would lessen a lot of anxiety in your life, pile number ones, and that would give you, it would make life feel more manageable and more in your control, is kind of what I'm being told, okay? Yes. Believe that is it. Yes. So pretty short and sweet. This is a little bit of a shorter reading today from my typical readings, pile number ones, but that is what I'm seeing as your messages for personal growth. As always, I hope that reading was helpful for you. I wish you a wonderful rest of your day. If you liked the reading, please like, comment, and or subscribe if you have not already, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, pile ones. Hello, my beautiful pile number twos. Welcome to your pick a card reading today on the topic of a message for personal growth. As you recall, your deck you picked with today was the Forest of Enchantment Tarot. So as always, when we pick with a deck, I'm going to put that right back into the tarot deck, and we're going to draw your tarot cards right off the bat. So, already drew your oracle cards. Let's shuffle here. There we go. So, Spirit, for my lovely pile number twos, could you give me 5 tarot cards explaining more about their message for personal growth? Where would you like to see them grow, or how are they doing on that? Thank you. Okay, well, there's one already that seems like it's popping out. For sure, that one. 2, 4, and I feel that one right there, number 5. Okay, let's unveil your cards together, pile number 2s. First up from the Oracle cards, we have the Healing Spirits Oracle. You received, when it feels right, do it. Gorgeous card. When it feels right, do it. Put that one up there. From the Sacred Destiny Oracle today, you received, community. We have, it looks like butterflies in a forest with a rainbow. Community. Then from the Wild Harmonics Oracle, he received Spirit of Fire, internal validation. Okay. Put that one up here. And from the Lantern Oracle, you received number 28, moving forward. The first step is taken within our stillness. Set that one up here. And then unveiling your tarot cards, you received the Weaver or the Queen of Visions, which is Cups. So the Queen of Cups, basically. Internal mastery of our emotions. We already kind of have a little bit of a theme tying here with internal validation here next to the Queen of Cups. Go figure. Very closely related cards, I would say. We have the Ace of Cups reversed. Lack of new relationships, lack of new emotions sometimes. Feeling maybe a little dead inside with some things. Let's see, we have the Nine of Swords reversed. The negative effects of anxiety and mental stress. Actually, apologies, I'm going to shift these over just a little bit. There we go. Okay, sorry. And then number 4, we have the Sun reversed. Okay, a little bit more of a mental health message here as well. Next to the Nine of Swords reversed, we have the Sun reversed can mean like depression or feeling like a lack of joy. And last but not least, we have the Six of Pentacles reversed, unfairness. Okay, pile number 2 is where are we at with our spiritual growth? What are some areas, I'm sorry, not spiritual. Well, it might include spiritual. Technically, though, personal growth. This could be any part of our lives, right? Where are we at? Okay, well, message number 1 that's popping out to me right away with you, pile number 2, is I feel like Spirit wants to say something about you have a lot of struggles with hesitation. Okay, we have not only when it feels right, do it, but I'm also drawn to your moving forward card, and it says the first step is taken within our stillness, okay? I think an area for personal growth for you is the way it's being portrayed to me is like you hesitate sometimes to move forward on goals or projects or plans because there's almost like I'm being told Goldilocks. And the story of Goldilocks was all about everything being just the right temperature. Things being just the right amount of heat, things being just the right amount of cold. Has to be that perfect medium. And so I feel like sometimes you hesitate on taking action on your goals because they're almost saying like you wait too long for that feeling of, okay, this is right now is the right time. Like everything's just perfect. Now I can move forward. But what they're saying is that might lead to, and maybe in the past already has, led to some issues with missing opportunities because you hesitated waiting for that Goldilocks zone. Because sometimes in life, pile number 2, we can feel like there's always a better time ahead to do something. We always think, well, I'll do that tomorrow, or I'll wait until I have this amount of money in my bank account before I start that business, or I'll wait until the next season to do this particular thing, or start working on, an exercise plan, or start learning that new hobby I've always wanted to learn. There's a feeling of it has to be just right. But what Spirit is saying is to let go of that needing of that Goldilocks feeling of just right and jumping into things a little bit more, being willing to take some more risks. Okay, that's one area of personal growth I'm seeing here. It's letting go of hesitation and being willing to commit to things a bit quicker, even if it doesn't feel just right yet. Okay, that's at least one piece of advice for personal growth here that's coming forward as one message. There's also a lot of messages around your emotions. Not only do we have the Queen of Cups and the Ace of Cups reversed, and Cups in tarot it's literally the suit of water, which is the suit of emotions, right? You also have a lot about mentally related things. So we have the Nine of Swords reversed, which is like anxiety plaguing you, kind of stopping you. That might kind of tie into that message we talked about before with the Goldilocks thing about your mind will kind of weigh you down on it has to be the right time before I take action. But I feel like in general, maybe you suffer a lot from anxiety in your life or mental stress, pile number 2, especially next to the Sun reversed. That is the card of feeling like a lack of joy or a lack of light, okay? Sometimes it can mean like a lack of information, like a lack of insight, because light unveils things, right? That's what it does. It shows us the truth of things when we cast light into, say, a dark room. But it can also mean our happiness, what it was our life, our light in our life. And so there's a lot of areas for personal growth here regarding getting in touch with your emotions more. I think, and I recommend this to pretty much everyone all the time in my readings, so it might sound kind of ad nauseum for those of you who view my readings a lot, but meditation would be a fantastic area to explore with this. Specifically meditation regarding getting in touch on how you really feel about certain things, okay? I feel like maybe life just goes so fast sometimes for you, pile number 1s, that you don't, pile number 2, sorry. 2 is not pile number 1s. Life goes so fast for you sometimes that you just kind of speed through things and you're not really thinking about how you actually feel about it. And it's almost like when new emotions come up, I feel like maybe sometimes you view them as like an inconvenience. You're like, okay, well, I can't really focus on how I feel. I just need to keep going. I need to keep doing things. But sometimes it's good to take a break and slow down and say to ourselves, okay, here's a new development in my life. How do I actually feel about it? That's another area of personal growth I'm seeing here for you, pile number 2s. 2, in tandem with getting more in touch with your emotions, I feel like that would help a lot with this Nine of Swords reversed and Sun reversed energy, okay? Those feelings of depression, those feelings of, or maybe even sadness or kind of confusion about how you actually feel about things. That might be where the lack of light is in the Sun reversed. To the anxiety of the Nine of Swords reversed. So it's a very, very difficult path to walk to, especially if it's been like a lifelong anxiety or sadness, right? You know, some of us suffer from actual like anxiety disorder, right? Some of us suffer from actual like depressive disorder, right? But that is an area that Spirit is saying that's what they would like you to work on, is reducing that anxiety and working on that depression or whenever sadness does come up. And not just, putting sadness in the trash and saying, hey, you're inconvenient, get out of my way, I gotta live life, I can't focus on you. Because sometimes we do that. We think, okay, well, that is inconvenient to me functioning as a human being in my society. I gotta throw that in the trash, and I'm not gonna honor that emotion, and I'm just gonna speed forward. But sometimes, and that might be what helps you get to the root of what's causing this, because when you get to the root of things, that helps you figure out how to fix things, right? Or how to at least live alongside things, even if it's not permanently fixable, right? If it's a lifelong thing. When we get to the root of it, and we actually listen to it instead of just tossing it in the trash, right? This is a metaphor I keep using. We can figure out, okay, well, how am I going to actually cope with this? It's almost like this this elephant in the room in your life. The metaphor I'm being showed, that so literally the imagery I'm being shown is like an elephant in the room that you keep putting a cloth over, and you're like, okay, it's not there, I swear to God, it's gone, right? I covered it up, it's fine. Being more honest with yourself about those emotions, pile number 2, is okay. And then there's also a third message here regarding the people around you. So to explain what that really means is, let's delve into your spirit of fire here, more internal validation. It's kind of like what it says on the tin. That card indicates sometimes a being drawn towards giving too much power or authority to others and not enough to ourselves. One area of personal growth for you, pile number 2, is, in addition to the others, is taking your power back from others more when it comes to where you gain your confidence. In our lives, we're often drawn to, well, what do other people think of me? What would other people say? How am I, compared to the average of society? How do I fit in? Like, do I fit in? What do other people think? We get plagued with those thoughts so much, and maybe that's actually where that anxiety comes from with the 9 of Swords reversed, right? We get plagued with those thoughts so much that really what we're doing is we're saying, here, society, here, other people, take all of my power away from me and control me. Like, that's literally what you're doing when, and we all do it, not just you, pile number 2. It's not, I'm not wagging a finger, but everyone does it. But literally, when you care about other people's opinions, you're giving them your power. And so that's another area of personal growth I'm seeing here, especially next to community. It's good to be community-oriented. It's good to care about other people and their opinions, pile number 2 is. But the issue is sometimes when we care about other people's opinions too much, it takes away our personal authority. And so focusing on taking your own power back and this is also part of where getting in touch with your emotions more will help, pile 2s, is, what do I think about this? What do I feel about this? Those are questions you need to ask yourself more, they're saying. And less, well, what do other people think about this? Or what do they think of me? It's like you focus too much on what other people think and what other people say and not enough on your own. You need to work more on internal validation rather than external validation. And I feel like that would help alleviate a lot of that anxiety and maybe that sadness, or at least a part of it, pile number 2, is because when your emotions are more in your own power, you have more control over how you feel. When you give that power to other people, it's like giving other people... It's almost like, it's like, okay, so let's say you have a light, right? And you have a remote that controls that light. And that light can be controlled with that remote by, you can either dim it or you can brighten it with a little button on the control, let's just say, right? And you caring too much about what other people think is giving them that remote to dim or brighten your light whenever they want, okay? Whereas you need to take that remote control back and say, hey, I'm going to dim and I'm going to brighten my light whenever I feel like it. That's basically what it metaphorically is kind of like, taking that control back and saying, you know what, other people, I'll value your opinions, but my opinion matters too. When it comes to things such as, I feel like this might manifest in your appearance, like maybe you care too much about what other people think about your appearance, and that causes you anxiety. It could also be in terms of where you're at in life, like comparison is the theft of joy. Sometimes, we compare ourselves to others, and that makes us feel bad about ourselves because we feel like, oh, well, I feel like I'm not as far ahead, or I don't have the things that those other people do, right? That's also giving your power away, pile number 2. So focusing on areas of your life where you can take control back instead of saying, here, everyone else, dictate how I feel about myself today. It's kind of how, basically that's how it works, right? I make light of it because, I feel like levity helps with more, deeper tarot readings like this, where it's about how can we get better, how can we grow, right? But you know what I mean, pile number 2. Let's see if there's any other messages here. See, the 6 of Pentacles reversed. That's about unfairness. Well, yeah, and that too is about, fairness to yourself. It's like there's an imbalance here between who has power in your life, you versus others. I'm also being told asking more for yourself. Not from, but for yourself, from other people. I feel like maybe sometimes people walk over you a lot too, because it stemmed from that same energy of giving other people your power, not just in terms of your confidence and your power and your validation, but also in terms of for example, and this might not apply to everybody, but let's say at your job you do a lot of work that's really hard, and it you almost kind of know maybe underneath that you're not really getting paid the right amount that you should be for the job that you're working, but it's like you're letting other people get away with unfairness to you in that area. So instead of standing up for yourself and saying, hey, manager, boss person, I'm hauling, well, we'll say it nice for you too, but I'm hauling butt here on these jobs for you or these projects for you, and I feel like I'm not getting compensated correctly for what I'm doing for you. It's like, I don't know, it's like letting people, once again, it's like letting people get away with taking your power away from you, letting people speak for you instead of speaking up and standing up for yourself, pile number 2s. You need to work more on being, increasing the chances for fairness to yourself in different areas of your life, standing up for yourself more, advocating for yourself more, instead of other people just walking all over you all the time. Let's see, anything else here, pile number 2s? I want to make sure that everything... and I feel like a lot of maybe too the reason you don't listen to your emotions enough is because you maybe as a child or just in your formative years, you were made to feel ashamed for the way you felt, or maybe you come from like a very stoic family where like emotion is not expressed often, or it's like you're supposed to act more reserved in the culture that you were raised in or your family that you were raised in. So part of the personal growth is also overcoming feeling ashamed for expressing yourself more, and not just with the fairness thing we were just talking about, but expressing yourself more in terms of like how you actually feel about things and not being so afraid of what other people think of how you feel. Like, for example, like, let's say you're with a partner and you guys are coming across, okay, well, what do we eat for dinner tonight? And let's say you're always someone who's willing to just let them have the pick. Not so much that the other person is selfish, but maybe you always let them have the pick as to what you're going to eat for dinner tonight, or like where you're going to go out to eat, let's just say. And they pick something that maybe isn't your favorite, but deep inside you're like, well, I don't want to express that disappointment because I feel like I have to stuff my feelings down. I feel like I need to be self-sacrificial more. And yes, it's good to compromise in relationships, pile number 2s, but sometimes it's also good to learn how to express our emotions more, because sometimes when we don't express what we actually feel or what we actually want to other people, it leads to miscommunication in our relationships, which then can lead to resentment. Because, like, in that same example, maybe you feel like, oh, my partner doesn't listen to me enough, but sometimes it might be that they don't listen to you enough, yes. But sometimes it might be that they don't listen because you're not giving them enough to listen to. You're not speaking enough about how you actually feel. So, like, that's just one tangible example, generalized for everybody watching this, that learning to express yourself more can be really helpful in terms of personal growth. Let's see. And then community, too. I feel like I'm being drawn to that. 1 second. There's something, too, about doing more for your community that would be good for your health, pile number 2s. I feel like it can help enact some more of these changes within yourself, especially because I'm drawn to the butterfly, and the butterfly is rebirth, symbolically. It's like changing oneself into a new form. I don't know if maybe you would be drawn to volunteering, or maybe drawn to advocacy type things for your community, being a leader in your community in some way, but I'm being told that there's some area like that would be really good for your personal growth, especially with leadership skills, pile number 2s. That would really help you with these different things. I think, too, it would maybe make you more happy, especially if you have been suffering from, say, some depression or, like, general melancholy. Working more for your community, I feel like, would bring you a lot of pleasure and a lot of purpose and a lot of happiness. Doing more for your community, it could be, I'm being told teaching classes, too. I don't know if there's maybe a hobby that you do that maybe you could teach other people, or something to do with your career if you're still in the working world, or even if you're retired, something that you knew how to do from your career when you were still working, and teaching other people how to do that thing, or maybe teaching other people leadership, those types of things along those lines, yeah. Let's see, any other messages here? Let's see, we talked about acting more, less waiting for the right time and being more impulsive sometimes. Fairness. Let's see, internal validation. Yeah, I think that is everything, pile number 2. So a little bit more short and sweet than most of my readings, but those are the areas I'm seeing for your personal growth that Spirit wanted to talk to you about today. So as always, I hope that reading was helpful for you. If you liked the reading, if it resonated with you, please like, comment, and or subscribe if you have not subscribed yet to my channel. That always helps me. I wish you a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next reading, pile number 2s. Bye. Hello there, my beautiful pile number 3s. Welcome to your pick a card reading today on the topic of a message for your personal growth. As you recall, the deck used to pick your pile with today was the lovely Wild Reflections Tarot. So as always when we pick with decks, I like to put the card right back into the deck so that we have it available for when we shuffle your actual message today. So, already drew the oracle cards. Let's draw your tarot cards on the screen. Okay. Here we go. Spirit, for my lovely pile number 3s, could you give me 5 different tarot cards or around there explaining more about what would you like to tell them about their personal growth? What areas can they grow in? Or what would you like to say? Thank you. Okay, 1. Okay, we had 1 pop out already. 2, 3, definitely that one, number 4, and I feel that one right there. Actually, there's kind of 2 popping out. I'll take them together. So we actually have 6. And let's unveil your cards, pile number 3s. From the Oracle decks today, we have from the Healing Spirits Oracle. Oopsie. We have Heal the Past and Fix Tomorrow. A lot of green energy. Gives me heart chakra vibes. We have an element of the past. So this could be some personal growth regarding our past and overcoming the pain from that. We'll talk about that more in a second. From the Sacred Destiny, you receive forgiveness. Beautiful. Forgiving oneself or forgiving others. From the Wild Harmonics, you received the Spirit of Earth, visceral listening. I just love that card because it's just like 2 opposites, like hands pushing against each other. And from the Lantern Oracle today, you received number 20, enough. You were born enough. So maybe some self-confidence, self-esteem, self-valuing. Knowing that you were born enough, you don't have to change a thing. And let's unveil your tarot cards. First up, we have the Page of Wands reversed, needing to explore our passions more. Okay, so maybe some creativity, some passion. Could also mean confidence. We did have a little bit of message of that with you were born enough, feeling like we are enough. Self-esteem. Number 2, we have the Nine of Swords, anxiety. Okay, so maybe some mental areas. And right now I'm just summarizing everything, but we'll get into the nitty-gritty here. Strength reversed. Okay, so that might relate to your Page of Wands reversed a little bit. This is about feeling like we lack the strength or the willpower to do things, but we actually do. Could also relate to that enough type message. Yep. There's a theme here. And then the Chariot reversed. Okay, feeling like we lack control, lack direction. Things are a bit chaotic maybe at times. We have the Seven of Pentacles reversed, needing to plant seeds for the future, preparing or planning more. And the 6th card that came out was the Fool. So the Fool is about new adventures, new beginnings, taking risks, maybe even just a little bit of optimism as well. Beautiful pile number 3s. Okay. So let's see, you don't have a majority major arcana, but you do have a lot of them, at least half. So I feel like the message we're talking about today in terms of your personal growth, because of the abundance of major arcana, as I always say on my channel, there's something to do here with at least one of your major life lessons in this reading, okay? That's an indicator to me from Spirit. One of your major life lessons. So let's see. Heal the past and fix tomorrow. Apologies for the silence as I look over everything here. See, Page of Wands reversed. Well, at least first thing coming out, pretty flashing neon sign here is there is potential for personal growth, your spirit guides are saying, in terms of your self-esteem and your confidence in yourself. I feel like you believe at times that there's an inherent lack within yourself in terms of your ability to do things, in terms of your ability to get things done, or feeling like you're capable enough. I almost wonder if sometimes you have imposter syndrome, pile number 3s. Imposter syndrome is basically sometimes people that are actually really good at things believe that they're just an imposter, like, oh god, I don't know what I'm doing, oh god, I must suck, or when actually in reality they're actually pretty good at it. They're very good at what they do. I feel like that's popping up here as one message, is a little bit of imposter syndrome here. It's like you think you lack the strength or you lack the capability, but you actually don't. I feel like other people's perspective of you is a lot more positive than your own self-perspective. And that stems, I think, pile number 3s, generally for most people, from self-esteem problems, okay? And I feel like because there's such an emphasis on the past here in your reading, especially with Heal the Past, Fix Tomorrow, and forgiveness, it's like something happened in your past that led you to believe that you were not enough, and that can stem from multiple things. That can stem from being raised as a child to believe that you weren't good enough. It can stem from bullying when you were young. Other people bullied you, and so that can have a lasting effect on your self-esteem, feeling like, okay, well, I got rejected as a child from other children, and so there's something wrong with me. Maybe you struggle a lot with that, and maybe that's where that Nine of Swords energy comes in a lot, plus your confidence-related things is being anxious a lot about being good enough. I almost get perfectionism vibes out of this too, not just imposter syndrome, but being a perfectionist, okay? Hello, it's me, this is my pile. I'm speaking from experience here, pile number 3s. Perfectionism and imposter syndrome, right? Nothing is ever good enough. I feel like it's either your parents or peers were too harsh on you as a child, and so you always felt like you had to be like the best to deflect any possible criticism. Like being criticized is maybe one of your biggest fears. And it is for a lot of people, so you're not alone in that pile number 3s. But when we fear criticism, sometimes, well, it can make us defensive to criticism because, well, to be fair, sometimes criticism isn't actually good. You want constructive criticism, but for those of us that have, maybe a little bit of a sensitivity to criticism because of, some self-esteem related things, sometimes that can make us ignore criticism that's coming from a good place, especially too when we come at it from the perspective of, well, I'm a perfectionist and I did everything to my utmost. Like I did absolutely everything I could. And so when someone's criticizing me, well, they're criticizing my best, and well, that's all I have. That's my absolute best. And it maybe it was your best, pile number 3s. And so it's not like, well, what's the best way to put that? It's not necessarily that when people give you constructive criticism that they're saying that you should have done more with the previous example. It's more just kind of saying for the future, this is what I would do different. And it's not always, you have to consider the source. Yes, sometimes people are just being, not nice and they're criticizing you because they're being, they're just being mean, right? But when we fear that criticism because of self-esteem related things, sometimes we toss some really golden advice in the trash that we should hold on to, okay? And so maybe working a little bit on sensitivity to criticism is one area as well for personal growth, Spirit is saying here. And yes, let's see if there's any other, yeah. Also too, forgiving, and I always, this is a struggle for me personally as a tarot reader whenever forgiveness comes up in a reading, because forgiveness is a very heavy thing, pile number 3s. Forgiveness is very difficult to navigate around because a lot of times when people hurt us in the past, one of the hardest things is to let it go. Because honestly, it stems from a feeling of injustice. Someone hurt me, and if I forgive them, it feels like it's like letting them get away with what they did. And yes, sometimes that's what happens. Sometimes people hurt you, And technically, yeah, they kind of get away with it. They never apologize. They're never made to, at least in this particular life, get karma for it. Sometimes they get away with it. And so when I talk about forgiveness in tarot readings, I always come at it from the perspective of you don't have to necessarily completely forgive what someone did. Say like those bullies we talked about, or maybe things that your parents did to you, but really the way I interpret it is more about forgetting, at least to the point of letting yourself not drag it behind you, or not letting that past of what people did to you hold you down like an anchor when you should be flying, okay? Because sometimes when we let those things from the past affect us more than they should, it dampens our spirit and doesn't let us go as far as we could without that weighing us down. Does that kind of make sense, pile number 3s? Because, I never want to say to somebody, you have to forgive someone from the past. You have to forgive them. It's more, the advice I always give when it comes up in tarot readings is at least let it go enough so that it doesn't weigh on you so much anymore. So that it doesn't give you such a visceral reaction, and make you feel so much pain, even if it's like from something from years and years and years in the past, because at that point, it's almost like letting whoever hurt you continue to win. It's like letting the poison that they gave you continue to run through your bloodstream when, if you were to kind of sort of, forget it a little bit more, or I guess I should say forgiveness technically, that would be like taking it out of your bloodstream, that toxicity, and they're no longer able to win. They're no longer able to have that effect on you, and it gives you power back, pile number 3. So that's why I feel like, at least in terms of this reading for you, they're saying it's important to let go of the past a little bit more, at least work on it a bit, because there are things from your past, I think, with those self-esteem related issues that are like that toxin still running in your bloodstream that, if you were to take it out, it wouldn't hurt you so much anymore, okay? It wouldn't let those people who hurt you have that effect on you anymore. And that's easier said than done. I can't just, say in a tarot reading, hey, forget that painful thing, because that's probably the hardest thing in life, is to forget and let go of painful things, especially things that other people did to us that were unfair. But part of growing is letting go. And that's why you have that heal the past and fix tomorrow card there. Part of growing is letting go, pile number 3s. And then let's see. Part of that message, too, is with your wild harmonics here, the Spirit of Earth, visceral listening. I pointed out I really love this card because it shows opposing forces. You have the active and the masculine, and then you have the passive and the feminine here. Fire and water, air and earth, things like that, opposing forces, visceral listening, right? And what that tells me in a tangible way for your personal growth, pile number 3s, is basically that card means finding a good balance between different energies in your life, between outside pressures specifically and internal pressures. That ties in a lot with what we already talked about with everything else. The internal pressure of I'm a perfectionist, and I want to make sure everything gets done right, versus external pressures, like let's say it's a project at work and you know that you only have a limited time to get something done that does not allow you to make that particular project the image of perfection that you wish it could be, right? So that internal pressure of needs to be perfect versus external pressure of I only have limited time, just as an example, pile number 3s, that might not apply to all of you, but balancing more in your life between those two things. Maybe sometimes it goes too much to the extreme from internal pressures, like maybe, like say you are at a project at work and you want it to be a certain way or for it to go a certain way, and you push away other people's opinions too much that are you working in a group with, let's say, on that project. So sometimes that might lead to other people feeling like they're not being heard enough in that project. Or it could be literally the opposite, pile number 3s, where sometimes you don't listen to yourself enough and you cave too much to outside pressures, where you could be in a teamwork situation where you let everybody else's opinions just trample all over your own and you're never listened to, okay? So that's another area of personal growth, is really focusing on balancing between outside pressures versus internal pressures, okay? And I think that would bring a lot more peace to your life, things like that. And that also applies generally to, like, when it comes to the self-esteem thing, how you view yourself versus the way other people view you, okay? Peace is moderation. Peace is balance between two opposing energies, okay? So it might be that maybe you don't listen to others enough, or it could be that maybe you don't listen to yourself enough. Especially with self-esteem, it tends to be you listen to not yourself enough. Pile number 2 has had this topic as well, where they listen to other people for external validation too much. And by doing that, it's giving other people your power, pile number 3s. When you give other people power, it takes away the ability of yourself to control it. It takes away your own authority that you should have over your own emotions or how you feel about yourself or your self-image, right? Your self-esteem. So really just in general, for everybody watching this pile, focus on how much am I listening to myself versus how much am I listening to others, okay? And bringing that into equilibrium. Let's see. We already talked about the power-related thing, feeling like you don't have as much power or capability as you do. That was the imposter syndrome we talked about with your tarot cards here, which causes anxiety. There is also an area of growth here, pile number 3s, with the Page of Wands reversed is about exploring more of the fire energy. And the fire energy in tarot is a lot about your creativity. It's a lot about your passions, a lot about confidence. So yes, that might manifest with the self-esteem thing we already kind of talked about for most of the reading so far, but it could also manifest in maybe you've been kind of like letting your hobbies slide a little bit recently, or maybe there's been some passions you've been drawn to, but you've been kind of putting them on the back burner for other things. Really open yourself up in terms of personal growth to exploring more with your fire energy, with your creation energy, in terms of, like maybe you want to start painting, or maybe you want to start doing like yarn or fabric craft, or, maybe you want to start making music or learning an instrument, insert hobby here. Really explore those things more, because mastering skills and mastering hobbies can bring us more of that self-esteem. So that once again ties back into that theme we talked about. The more you give yourself the opportunity to succeed with, say, hobbies, for example, the more you have the opportunity to feel like you've mastered and are good at things. And that will boost your self-esteem and your confidence, pile number 3s, okay? That's another area of personal growth here I'm seeing. And then looking at, let's see, the Chariot reverse, lack of control, chaos, planting seeds for the future. And then new ventures with the Fool. Yes, okay. So one last area of personal growth I'm seeing here, pile 3s, is I feel like they're talking about a predisposition towards reacting too much and not enough proactivity. And I say that because the Chariot reverse is about feeling like chaotic or things are out of our control. You see, like, the man here he currently has the horses under his control. He's reining them in. But reversed, it's like, oh no, I've let the reins loose and the horses are just kind of going and dragging the cart wherever. Same thing with the Seven of Pentacles reversed. That's about planting seeds for the future, but in reverse, it's not planting enough. When you are thinking about doing new things, especially emphasized here by the Fool, that's new beginnings and new adventures, pile number 3s. When you are thinking of doing new things, really focus more on what you can do to best prepare yourself for those new adventures or those new projects, okay? There needs to be a little bit more preparation in your life in terms of new things that you're doing, okay? Or it could even manifest as well in maybe you don't let yourself try new things. Maybe that's where that Page of Wands reverse came in. You don't let yourself try new things and go on new adventures because it could be part of that perfectionism coming in where it's like you plan almost too much. But it could also manifest in that you're not planning enough. So once again, we're talking about equilibrium here. Really balance between, or at least focus on the balance between planning too much and planning just enough and not planning enough, okay, when it comes to new adventures. Because sometimes you focus on planning so much. Pile number 1's had the same issue. You focus on planning so much that you never take those new adventures because you're thinking, well, I got to plan this, I got to plan that. And you get so focused on the preparation part, you never get to the doing part. Okay. And so that's like I was saying about the active versus reactive energy. It's like leaning more into the activity, leaning more into the doing rather than the reacting to things too, as well as when life throws things your way, I feel like sometimes maybe you trend towards not having prepared for those things. Yeah, sometimes life throws us curveballs that we didn't expect and you can't plan for at all. Like, that happens all the time. But this is more for situations in which you might kind of see the writing on the wall, and maybe sometimes you don't plan enough for it, and then you get caught in a pickle because you're like, well, oh crap, now it happened. I saw the writing on the wall, but I didn't prep enough for it. So that's another area of personal growth they're talking about here with that Seven of Pentacles reversed and this Chariot reversed being next to it. Like I said, planning for the future and taking control, okay? Learning more about how to do that, okay? Prepping more. Saving money where you can, for example, for a rainy day. Or, if you are going on new ventures, let's say starting a new business, just as an example, actually doing the planning part on it and taking active energy towards it versus just staying in the reactive phase of well, that would be nice, into, okay, I'm actually going to take tangible steps towards getting this off the ground, okay? That sort of thing, pile number 3s. And part of that might stem from, especially if you have issues getting things off the ground or getting started with things, that might also be kind of related to self-esteem because, like we said earlier, I think there's some issues with strength reversed here and not believing in your own strength enough, not believing like you have the ability to do things, and that might be part of why maybe you struggle with planning for the future here or taking control, right? But believe in yourself. Believe in the ability for you to be that fool of taking new adventures, skipping around into something with optimism and feeling weightless and new as you go into new hobbies, into maybe a new job, new relationships, new friendships, whatever it is that is a new thing in your life, pile number 3s, okay? Try to embody more of that full energy and strength energy of, I believe in myself to be able to take that first step, okay? So let's see, I think that is everything. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any messages here for you, pile 3s. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if I had to say one final overall piece of advice from your personal growth reading today, pile 3s, is to believe in yourself more, okay? Believe in yourself is a really, really good theme for your reading today. Yes, some letting go of the past. Yes, that balance between opposing and internal forces, right? But believing in yourself ties in a lot of that self-esteem message. The issues from the past, as well as the energy you have to explore new things in your life, especially when it comes to creativity with the Page of Wands reversed, okay? So that's what I will leave you with, my lovely pile number 3s. As always, I hope that reading was helpful for you. If that reading resonated with you or helped you at all, please like, comment, and or subscribe if you have not already. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next reading, pile number 3s. Bye.